The second game in the franchise, Quake 2, abandons the original premise in favor of a reboot. The result is, instead of having the original hero versus demon goth setup, we're left with a more technological theme. In this story, evil cyborg aliens called the Strogg have just invaded Earth. We kicked their ass off Earth, and now we're counterattacking on their homeworld Strogos. It's all fine and dandy, but they got this weapon called the Big Gun. It basically makes ships useless and interferes with our landing pods. So as a sole survivor, it's your job to sneak in and take out the Big Gun. Honestly, all this just confused the hell out of me when I first got the game. I was trying to figure out how it linked in with the original Quake, and it didn't. That kinda irks me because the original Quake was such a great game. For its time, anyway. It's been suggested by people I know that Quake 2 wasn't actually Quake 2. It was developed as something entirely different, and they just slapped the Quake name on it when they wanted it to succeed. After all, Quake was a successful brand name that would draw an audience, drive sales. Okay, back on track. While the game does feature puzzles, you won't have to worry about them at all. The game is linear, and any information you need to know is displayed to you on your little mini computer, and you will be reminded frequently when the computer is updated by a little flashing F1 symbol. So what you're seeing now is the heart of Quake 2. You run around with your little guns and you shoot Strogg dead. These Strogg are pretty tricky bastards, in the sense that when you shoot a lot of them dead, they'll get back up to do one or two final shots before actually falling down. Some of them are even smart enough to run to and hit alarms, which will summon even more enemies if you don't kill them before they reach it. So despite not being Quake, this game has a lot of revolutionary stuff on board. There are other nuances to the game which are rather interesting. For example, there are certain enemies called medics, which will revive dead enemies if you haven't given them, that is, turned their corpses into little meaty chunks. Although I will admit, the final boss of Quake 2 looks suspiciously like the final boss of Quake 1's first expansion pack. Oh wait, the original boss was cooler. My bad. While not revolutionary like Quake 1 was, Quake 2 still shines just as brightly in the multiplayer element. While they paid little to no mind to balance when designing these weapons of mass destruction, the game still managed to be fun. Unfortunately, this tends to promote camping. That is, one person finding an ideal spot where a weapon and ammo spawn, and defending it. This player can assure his dominance in the map by making sure no one else gets the said weapon. And there are some weapons so overpowered that no player should ever have access to them, such as the railgun. Sure, Quake 2 purists will bitch, but the railgun is simply overpowered. The slow rate of fire does not make up for it being a Twitch god, flying full-speed Angel of Death one-shot weapon. Just like with Quake 1, Quake 2 had a rich modding community that created all sorts of custom games. Everything from Rocket Arena to superheroes made a return, and that includes Zoid's Threewave CTF. The only thing that didn't make a return was Team Fortress, although the community made up for that by making their own mod called Weapons Factory, which served the same purpose and had almost identical maps. We wouldn't see an actual Team Fortress for over a year, with the release of Half-Life and Team Fortress Classic being the sequel to the original for Quake 1. If I had to sum up Quake 2 in a word, it would be a gateway. It leads us from Quake, the originator of all online first-person shooting, to the modern age.